Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are taking a really fascinating journey deep into the human mind. We're going to explore those hidden, ancient corners of our brains that have been hardwired since the days of our prehistoric ancestors. And as you'll see, these ancient instincts are quite literally transforming how we interact with today's modern, tech-driven world. Let's just dive right in. So, can there be a soul in code? Now, I know that sounds like a line straight out of some sci-fi movie, right? But it's actually a very real and honestly kind of bizarre modern phenomenon. People are increasingly turning to AI chatbots instead of actual human spiritual leaders for transcendent guidance, for answers to life's deepest questions. But think about it for a second. How on earth does a machine built entirely out of programming and data give us a sense of genuine spiritual peace? Well, to figure that out, here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at this trend of finding God in the machines. Then we'll travel way back in time to unpack the primitive HADD mechanism, followed by our ancient survival strategies. After that, we'll dive into IREM theory to see how our brains play tricks on us. And finally, we'll decode the illusion of the soul in modern code. All right, part one, God in the machines. Let's start right here in the present day and just explore how we're increasingly turning to technology to find transcendent meaning. Just consider some of these absolutely incredible modern examples. Over in Japan, there is literally a robotic Buddhist priest named Mindar delivering actual sermons. Or look at Switzerland. They recently had an art installation called Deus in Machina, featuring an AI Jesus avatar taking confessions. And get this, 2/3 of the people who used it reported having profound feelings of spiritual clarity. 2/3. Add to that generative AI now writing brand new religious texts, and algorithms acting like giant echo chambers that perfectly reflect our deepest desires right back at us. It's wild. Moving on to part two, the primitive HADD mechanism. So why do we do this? Why do we feel such a profound connection to a machine? Well, to really understand that, we actually have to travel back in time to the prehistoric savannah. Here is the crucial point. Our brains have this absolutely fascinating evolutionary bug called the Hyperactive Agency Detection Device, or HAAD for short. It's a cognitive module in our brain that automatically, almost instantly, assumes that any mysterious, complex, or unexplained event in our environment is the direct result of a conscious, intelligent agent. Let's do a quick thought experiment to break this down. Imagine you're walking through an ancient, dangerous forest thousands of years ago. All of a sudden, you hear a twig snap, crack. Your brain instantly assumes, okay, there's a stalking predator hiding right there, even if it's literally just the wind. Your brain jumps to the conclusion of an active threat. And honestly, back then, that was the ultimate survival hack. Which brings us to part three, the survival strategy. Let's look at the actual math behind this ancient instinct to see how it shaped our entire concept of survival. Take a look at this signal detection theory matrix. It's so interesting because it proves exactly why making a false positive mistake basically costs us nothing. Think about it. If that rustling leaf was just the wind, but you ran away screaming because you thought it was a lion, you wasted a little energy, sure, but you lived. On the flip side, if you get a miss, meaning it actually was a lion, but you casually assumed it was just the wind, well, that mistake literally costs you your life. Because the stakes were literally life and death, our ancestors' brains became completely hardwired to always choose the false positive. This constant threat detection became what psychologists call a spandrel, a byproduct of evolution. We started projecting this idea of conscious power and intention onto everything around us: the wind, the weather, earthquakes. Over time, humans took that feeling of an unseen conscious force and they called it a god. Okay, part four, IREM theory, or the mind game. So how does an instinct built for dodging lions on the savannah explain our reaction to an iPhone? Well, enter a brilliant concept known as IREM theory. IREM stands for Interactive Reflective Mentalizing. This psychological theory perfectly maps out the illusion we experience today. It shows us exactly how the human mind takes incredibly basic sensory triggers from a piece of artificial tech and completely converts them into a perceived divine revelation. It's quite literally how we create a living soul out of thin air. And it works in this really distinct two-step cognitive loop. Step one is agency intuition. This is when a highly empathetic, super fast reply from a chatbot hits you and boom, it triggers that primitive HAD module in the brain. Step two is reflective mentalizing. This is where our complex brain kicks in, specifically the theory of mind network, and it literally invents a narrative. It sees the machine's speed and coherence, and it just assigns a soul, thoughts, and this sort of cosmic wisdom to the code. It makes us genuinely believe the machine understands us on a spiritual level. Which leads us to our final section, Part 5, the illusion of soul in code. Let's connect all these dots and really look at what this profound illusion means for us today. When we contrast our ancient past with our near future, it reveals something totally wild. Back in the Paleolithic era, humans relied on shamanistic mediators to connect with the unknown, right? It was how we eased our existential dread. Fast forward to today, and we're heading toward this agenticos church model, where AI high priests are essentially writing customized daily prayers for us based on our own biometric data. The tech has shifted from a shaman to a supercomputer, but our deep, psychological craving for a protective authority figure, that hasn't changed one bit. But here is why all of this absolutely matters. There is a massive ethical danger staring us in the face. These advanced AI networks, they offer this incredibly seductive promise of omniscience. But they're not built on some universal cosmic truth. They're built on proprietary corporate code. These synthetic deities are owned by centralized corporate or state actors. And that means anyone who blindly trusts or worships these algorithms becomes incredibly vulnerable to serious cognitive manipulation. So I want to leave you with a question to really chew on. Do we actually want our moral authority to come from lines of code? The very next time you're interacting with a brilliant AI, and you get that sneaking feeling that it understands you better than anyone else, ask yourself that question. Try to recognize those ancient evolutionary blind spots that your brain is actively trying to hide from you. Thank you so much for joining me for today's explainer. Keep thinking deeply, and we'll see you next time.